Shall I check that share screen?
Dr. Susan, we are live now.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let's start the 6th technical section on development of career in higher education in India in the 21st century by a word of prayer. I request Dr. J. Andrew, Associate Professor, Department of Zoology, to do the same. Dr. J. Andrew.
Let us pray. Almighty Father, we praise you, honor you, and adore you. We thank you for the health, education, and comfort we have received from your hands. We thank you for being able to meet today through virtually. We commit today's lectures and discussions into your mighty hands, O God, the Lord of the past, present, and future. As we deliberate on the skills required for the workforce, the challenges and opportunities in 21st century, we pray for your continuous guidance. May your spirit of wisdom and understanding, justice and truth, faith and integrity rule our hearts and minds. Bless the patrons, organizers, speakers, and all the participants of this FDP. We ask this for thy glory, in your mercy. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Now I welcome Honorable Principal and Patron, Professor S.P. Singh, our resource person, Professor Dr. B.B.S. Daniel, our chairperson, Dr. D.S. Sharma, Head Department of Maths, St. John's College, Agra, Dr. J. Andrew, Associate Co-Chair, Associate Professor, Department of Zoology, and Dr. Sakshi Walker, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany as rapporteur, and participants from all over India. Good morning, everyone. Now over to Dr. D.S. Sharma, chairperson of today's technical section.
I start, madam?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Good morning to all of you, especially Dr. Professor S.P. Singh, our principal. Thank you very much, sir, calling me. And today's 21st century workforce पर हमारा ये सेमिनार हो रहा है. Seminar नहीं, sorry, FDP program. I say a few words for our participants in the present scenario and the upcoming challenges and opportunities in this globally and digitally interconnected world. One and all need new skills and knowledge to succeed. If we want to prepare ourselves and our future generation to succeed in every phase of life, if it is essential to learn skills for 21st century. These 21st century skills are more important now to present and future generations than ever before. They not only provide a framework for successful learning, but also ensure them to complete in a world where change is constant and learning never stops. And they are also tremendously important for our nation's well-being. Our business community demands a workforce with these skills to ensure our competitiveness in a global economy. And at a time when our civic life feels strained, we want our learners to enter the world with an understanding of what it takes to be a good citizen, one who can be civically engaged, critically thinking, digitally literate, globally aware, and an effective communicator. So it is the duty of educators and workforce experts to identify these skills without which they will not be able to successfully participate in the global economy. They would not be adequately prepared for life and work. But what exactly are 21st century skills? Today, in the first training session of the day, this FDP Faculty Development Program, we will learn about the skills required for 21st century workforce. Now I am requesting you, Dr. J. Andrew, please introduce today's source person, Professor Sundar Daniel. Now, proceed.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. I consider it a privilege to introduce the speaker of this technical session, Professor B.S.S. Daniel, on behalf of the organizing committee. Dr. B.S.S. Daniel, professor in the Department of Metallurgical and Material Engineering and Center of Nanotechnology at the Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. After his graduation in physics from Madras Christian College, Chennai, he did his ME in metallurgy from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He completed his PhD from IIT Kanpur and served as a postdoctoral fellow in Germany for a while. Some of his research interests are metallic foam, composite materials, nanomaterials, energy materials, and metallic glass. He is a member of various national and international forums and has served as the president of All India IIT Federation. He has 50 papers in referred journals and 35 conference papers. 10 students have completed PhD under him and 5 more are currently working under him. It is indeed our privilege to have him with us today. Today, he will deliver a technical lecture on the topic skills required for 21st century workforce. On behalf of the organizing committee and all participants, I welcome him and request him to kindly deliver the lecture. Over to Professor B.S.S. Daniel.
Thank you very much, Professor Andrew, Professor Shailendra Singh, and all the other esteemed faculty colleagues and participants. It's really an honor and a privilege to me to participate in this manner. Just want to check, is my audio clear? Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then the next test to be able to see if we are able to share the screen. Okay. So are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, so that's wonderful to know. Without that, I will be lost because this is not my expertise. And after Professor Shailendra Singh asked me, I thought I should because we are living in very different times. We did not even expect this about 6 months ago that we will see a situation like we are seeing currently. So much so that we have to do a lot of rethinking. It is true that most of us are in the, I will say, business of training people for the future. I think some mics are on. Maybe the host can turn off the mic so that the background noise can come down. So this context forces us to rethink what we are doing because.
Just a minute. Professor Daniel, please unmute yourself.
Yes, I have done that. Yeah. So yes, thank you. So we were used to teaching students in a classroom. We were used to communicating knowledge, and we were used to conducting an exam at the end of the entire process and give marks. And Sorry. सागर पे एक मीटिंग में हूँ, अब मैं बाद में 1 घंटे के बाद कॉल करूँगा। ठीक है, सॉरी। Sorry about that. So all that we were used to, all that we were trained to do with our students, now we need to relook at it. Whether these processes are sustainable, whether they are really what will prepare our students for tomorrow's jobs. And this is a good opportunity. Of course, we are sad about the fact that it is affecting human lives, and also currently it is affecting the job scenario. But I think this is really a golden opportunity to take a really reasonable, reasoned approach into how we are going to train people and how we can make people effective for the future. It's not just my satisfaction that I do what is comfortable for me, communicating knowledge the way I like to, and go away with it, because we are also interested about how we can have people who will find satisfaction 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, when they are in their professional life. How will they still find relevance in what they are doing and find satisfaction that they have been actually equipped for the situations they are facing? So this is the question which I was posed with, and of course I'm not going to give you all the answers, but I hope I'll at least make you start thinking and hopefully start looking at what you are doing, and maybe you will also be able to come up with your own answers within your context, so that we can together raise a skilled workforce for the 21st century. So with that kind of general outlook, I would like to proceed. Okay. Yeah. So when we are talking about education, I think we cannot ignore Nelson Mandela. Nelson, his quote is that education is the most powerful weapon which one can use to change the world. Well, of course, the world is going to change. There's no question about that. And what we are saying here is education still has relevance. So if I'm sure that most of you are educators, so it is in your hands. It is in your hands, literally, how you are going to see this world being changed. So what are the things which play a role? Of course, society is changing around us. So we cannot say that we will keep the same, follow the same rules, same principles, irrespective of what is happening around. So we have to examine what is, how lifestyles, how people go about their life, and how people live in communities, what changes have taken place there. So those are factors which affect us also, and we need to bring that into the classroom scenario. And we need to ask ourselves, what do employers want? This is a very difficult thing for us as teachers, because we think we know the syllabus, we know the curriculum, we are the experts in this. We have been doing this for such a long time. But essentially what the market demands, that gets left out. So it is important that when we are developing curriculum, when we are looking at our own programs, we look at what is the need today, or what is going to be the need tomorrow. That is an even better question to ask. Okay, and also we need to look at what attributes should a graduating student have. So okay, we have admitted so many students this year, and they're going to maybe graduate after 3 years or 4 years. And what qualities do we want them? Of course, they have studied mathematics, science, English in their school. So they have that basic knowledge. So when they come to this graduate program, what are we expecting? Are we going to give them more knowledge, more things to remember when they leave? Or are we going to give them skills on how to use that knowledge, and skills which will also help them when they add new knowledge in the future, how they can still use them, so that is something we need to think about, what we want to equip our graduates with. Okay, and also we need to ask ourselves, what will you do as an educator? Of course, maybe you were trained in a certain way to teach. Now the technology has changed, the world has changed. So is what you are doing still relevant today? Are you going to stick to that same formula which you liked and adapted at a certain point in your career? Is that going to be valid for you until you retire? Are you, or do you think you need to retool yourself? You need to be open to opportunities and how you can better connect and how you can be more relevant in the educational system. So these are questions we need to consider and explore and ask ourselves. So at this point, I want to show a video for you. I hope it will play. It's just a 3-minute video. So about the changes that are happening in society. So please listen and watch. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video. So there were some very pertinent questions there, which I hope you were able to observe. One is that there is so much advance in technology happening, and it's very rapid. And the way in which the usage of this technology is changing lives is tremendous. That cannot be ignored. And also from a teaching perspective, even the knowledge available on the internet, we are talking about the internet primarily, okay, because that is the thing, the technology which is affecting all of us and the world at large in today's generation. So every 2 years, the knowledge available is doubling, you know. I ask myself, so if that is the case, so what I'm teaching today will be quickly a very small portion of the knowledge which is necessary in 2 or 3 years' time. So practically, what we are teaching will become irrelevant, or something which they can easily access from Google or Wikipedia and other sources. So it is not necessary that only it can be made available in the classroom. And also, you would have seen that the robots and automated processes are coming in, such that conventional jobs probably are going to be challenged a lot. Many jobs which can be automated probably will be in the either near or slightly distant future. So then the opportunities are also there. So while these jobs are disappearing, there are more new jobs appearing. So if you saw the numbers there, 75 million jobs are going to disappear in the next 5 years. But then 133 million jobs are going to be available. New jobs are going to be available. But then we cannot fit people who are trained for these 75 million jobs which are obsolete to become those people who will take up that 133 million new jobs which are going to be created, because the job scenarios are the skill requirements for the jobs are different. So this is the important point to bear in mind. So that is why this topic is very relevant, more so for us. How are we going to equip people to take up jobs which don't exist today? You know, today's top 10 jobs are not going to be the most desired jobs 10 years down the line. So how are we going to prepare people for the requirements which we don't even know, for the problems which we don't even know exist for education today? So of course, if you look at how we started learning, so on the left hand side we have the slate. Maybe some of us in our first and second standard we use this, but we cannot even imagine any of our children even handling these kind of tools today. And more so now we are talking about iPad and iPhones and tablets, where right in your palm you have the knowledge which is available in the entire world at a touch of a button. So this is the kind of transformation that has happened. Okay, so I want to list a few books for us to look at. These are books which have made lasting changes in the way people think. So, and also this is an evidence of how the world has changed. One such book is the Blue Ocean Strategy by Chan Kim and Renee Maubogon. This is a book which actually is a bestseller, and so many copies have been sold. So here, the new thought presented here is that lasting success comes not from battling competition, but from creating blue oceans. So there are untapped new market spaces ripe for growth. So the Blue Ocean Strategy presents a systematic approach to making competition irrelevant and outlines principles and tools any organization can use to create and capture their own blue ocean. So this is something very important for our Indian context, particularly Indian parents. So they are oftentimes more ambitious and want to translate their ambitions into the careers of their children. So they are pushing them to become either doctors, or if you cannot become a doctor, then become an engineer. So it's a very narrow vision. So we, unfortunately, this is also created an economy where people peddle all kinds of educational mechanisms and hostels in quota and so forth, where people try to stay and try to become experts in trying to crack certain types of exams, but they don't have many skills other than that, other than trying to solve some problems on paper. They don't have the experience of even going to a school and having a proper curriculum and social development along with their curriculum. So this is a sad part. So this is exactly what this book is talking about, that kind of cutthroat competition, and the success in those exams which they are trying to crack is only 1%. So that means for one person who succeeds, 99 people are going to go away disappointed. So that is the kind of frustration we are pushing into our children by creating such illusions of success. But whereas this book shows you that actually there are so many other opportunities around, okay, and only we need to explore that. So who's going to do that? Obviously the parents should do that, but many times they fail. And that's probably also because they're trying to live their dreams through their children. So here is a very good role for the educators. So how can the educators play a role here? So they have to be aware what is happening in the world around. They have to be aware of the changes which are happening around. With the coming in of internet, even, of course, I'll show you a few more topics. Even small things can be made available to a larger group. It's not just that the volume of sale which matters. Even things which are sold in small numbers, they also find a space through the internet. Okay, so you can build even a small business in a very remote place. You don't have to be in a city, or you don't have to be in a strategic location. You don't have to have access to maybe the airport and the best railway stations. So that is what has changed. So if educators can identify the actual talent and gifting of students and push them in directions where they will find fulfillment, I think that will be a great achievement of a teacher. And this is another book. Of course, I'll be sharing the PowerPoint with you, so you can refer to these books later also, and they are available on the internet. You can directly access them. So this is about The Long Tail by Chris Anderson. So what does he talk about? So he shares about what happens when there is almost unlimited choice, when everything becomes available to everyone. So this was an utopia maybe 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago. You could not think, you had to be in some privilege to have access to information. Okay, you had to have had some kind of support at your lower level so that you can compete and get higher education. And so everybody could not have such access. But this book talks about how a situation can be made different, how the world is changing so that the situation is now different from what it was before. So, and it also talks about how the future of business does not lie in hits. You found one product and therefore you are selling that very successfully and you are making money out of it. Okay, that is how the business was viewed in the past. But now people are even looking at those misses which did not really make a big volume sales. Okay, and how is this possible? That's because our world is transformed by the internet and the near infinite choice it offers consumers. So traditional business models are being overturned and new truths revealed about what consumers want and how they want to get it. We all experience this. So I think in the past, we went to a particular shop and maybe he stored only certain brands of a certain product. So we were limited by that choice, so we picked that up. Okay, but I'm sure most of you now do a lot of your purchases online. And where are these online shops? We don't even know. Maybe there is no shop. Okay, it's only a vendor who is trying to sell something from his home, and he has everything stocked in a storeroom. Okay, and as and when order comes, so he is able to. So the internet makes the choice unlimited for you. Okay, so any product which you are looking for, you are able to compare and decide which is the one. So that way, even the small players who did not have opportunity to place their goods in the particular store where you went to buy are able to make sales and are able to have a satisfactory life. So this is how the internet has changed things. So this is discussed in this particular book, the long tail. And this is another book which I would like you as educators to look at. The World is Flat, okay, by Thomas Friedman. It's again a very good seller. So this is the beginning of the 21st century will be remembered not for military conflicts or political events, but for the whole new age of globalization, the flattening of the world. So this is something we have been always discussing. Of course, there are the negative aspects of globalization also, but there are several positive things about globalization also, how things are becoming more equal in the sense that more accessible and more ways in which the competition is evened for many businesses. The explosion of advanced technologies now means that suddenly knowledge pools and resources have connected all over the planet, leveling the playing field as never before, so that each of us is potentially an equal and competitor of the other. So this is the new world order. It's not somebody who understands this. Okay, so your outlook should change, and the way you approach situation and problems and challenges should also change. So opportunities are there, and you have to be exposed to it. Okay, so looking at the internet itself, I just wanted to put a timeline since we are talking about the internet. So what is this internet? Internet, yeah, many of us did not talk about internet until the late 90s. But yeah, I don't know if any of you are familiar, but Netscape was the first browser which we were using. Before that there was Mosaic, which probably people don't even remember. Okay, so and then in the mid 90s, you had things like eBay, Amazon. So these are ways where you could auction off your things, something which you wanted to sell. Okay, and in '98, significantly, Google was founded. Okay, and in 2001, Wikipedia came into play, and anybody could, add knowledge into a kind of repository. So, and there was ways in verifying it, and it's continuing to grow. And this is where I was referring to knowledge doubling every 2 years. The amount of information which is being added is doubling every 2 years. And of course, from 2004, Facebook, what did Facebook do? It brought your social life onto the internet. You don't have to go out, call a friend and walk out and find a chai shop. Now you could meet on the internet and have the same kind of experience. And of course, YouTube came, and with YouTube, content development. And so you became also somebody who started creating content for the internet. So you started participating in the growth of the internet. And of course, we know Twitter and Instagram, so it's all our communication skills. I don't believe any of you now writes a letter, puts it in an envelope, puts a stamp, and walks to the post office. Well, even before that, you can send an email and get a reply. So that's the kind of changes which have happened. Now, post 2010, there are so many more changes. So now things are becoming smaller and more accessible. You do not have to carry your computer around, okay, because you can just wear it on you. Okay, and these are the things which are changing. Okay, people are able to visualize 3D, and these technologies are going to affect how we go about our life. So also how we learn, that is going to change. Okay. In the 1960s, it was the US Navy which started the ARPANET, okay, which transformed into the internet. So they used it primarily for communication purposes. Okay, and then when they opened it to the public, so it became something which was for public consumption. Okay, so information was what people were looking for on the internet. But with Web 2.0 coming up, it was also contributed to the social life, and it started influencing us and how we behave. And the 3.0 is what I'm talking about now, which we have, where people are actually participating in the development and growth of the internet, establishing connections and giving content and giving a completely new meaning. And I think this coronavirus is going to even launch this even further, give it a kickstart, because next semester, at least in my institute, we have decided we are not going to have classroom teaching. So that means I'm not going to see my student for the entire 6 months period face to face. Okay, I'm only going to see him on the internet, and we are going to, now this is something very important. We have to now develop ways in which we not only give content, of course, which is teaching, but also how we will evaluate them. How am I going to assess the learning process? We had a continuous assessment process while we were meeting face to face, where people are submitting assignments or I was conducting quiz. Okay, but now students are in their home, okay, in the privacy of their home with access to the entire internet. Okay, so he has so my conventional test, okay, is no more a valid test, because he has information. I cannot tell him to keep the mobile and switch off, or don't keep your textbooks next to you. So don't look at the other person who is doing the test. So these things are completely irrelevant. Okay, so how am I going to create the assessment process for this semester and for this generation? This is what we are going to ask ourselves going forward. Okay, again, to kind of put it in perspective, okay, when we thought about computer, we only talked about programming and coding, okay, so that is of course still there, okay, but then it transformed. In the 80s, we started seeing that you could use the computer for training purposes, and multimedia started coming into play, okay, and in the 90s, we saw that there was internet-based training, okay, because now the internet started growing, there's enough content there, so people could use, rather than some course material or books, they could simply rely on the internet to give their resources. And in the 20s, we started e-learning, meaning what we were giving in the classroom, we started making it available on the computer. Okay, so much so that people were able to take courses via the internet. And of course, now we are going further. We are now having what we call learning management systems. Okay, so that is the social software which is I'm talking about. But what is also changing is many of this is open source. Okay, so open source meaning it is accessible free of cost. Okay, so of course they are earning their money through advertisement or other sources, but for the person who wants to acquire it, okay, it is free. So that is where I'm talking about the flattening of the world, you know. So things are accessible. Of course, you need to have that awareness of where to access it and what is important and what is relevant. So those decisions we have to make. So that is one of the training aspects we need to give to this generation so that they make the right choices in their search. Okay, so what I have described right from the 80s, you know, of course, the psychology professionals will be able to explain it better. Okay, so this is also classified, affected us in the way we behave, both individually and socially. Okay, so maybe right from the 70s, you can say that it was behaviorism, okay, where you know, the individual was the center, and it was only about his happiness and his moral purpose of life, which was held supreme. And of course, as achievements, they were only looking for their personal goals. And of course, reason was held as absolute, you know. So, but with the computer coming into the play and involving into the life of people, we saw that we also could see cognitivism coming into play. So when I describe cognitivism with the internet technology, I would like to look at it as how people began to look at the processes involved in the learning. You know, it is not just the observed behavior, okay, but it's also connecting the informations. You know, connecting informations which are not seemingly connected, but those connections give you new meaning and new purpose and new direction, and therefore productivity and growth was enhanced. So this is cognitism. People could recognize the processes underlying what internet was offering and enhance it for their benefit. And then we have constructivism. So here we are actually recognizing the individual's prior knowledge and understanding, you know, and the prior experience plays a role in building, in developing. So that exposure, where you come from, you know, so with what experience you have, so that plays a role. So somebody who is good in coding a certain language, so the experience he has on the internet is different from somebody who has no knowledge of coding, okay, and would still be happy using Facebook and WhatsApp and other resources and have a different type of experience. And finally, I think in today's generation and today's age, we will call our generation, in this generation, we have also seen this connectivism coming into play. And by connectivism, I mean that we are getting into the digital learning phase, as the person who kindly introduced talked about. Okay, this digital learning, digital age is today, and we have already arrived there, and we need to be able to understand the internet technology and also to be aware of what are the tools this internet technology makes available for learning processes. So this is something we have to do. And since I will not be meeting my students this semester, I have been forced to do that. So I have identified one or two technologies like Moodle, like what we are using right now, Zoom. Okay, so these are technologies I didn't even know about 6 months ago, but I'm going to rely on that to interact with my students, to do online tests or review of my teaching with the students. So these are the things which make us relevant in the digital age that we are in today. Right. So as you can see, in the initial stages of the internet, we are talking about the individual growth. Okay, so which is basically knowledge and information, which, yeah, of course, as a person, you go to the library and search. That is one experience. Okay, and you can, and especially if you go to a big library which has a large archives, you can, know that you can spend an entire day, and yeah, you will gain a certain amount of knowledge. But most of your time will go in searching for where this book is and where it is, locating it. And yeah, sometimes books are misplaced or even lost. So all those issues. But the internet has made everything available in a very easy search. Okay, either you're going to Google search, or if you are going for technical subjects, okay, you have your own search libraries like Science Direct, which will help you to access information very quickly without going to a library, without climbing so many staircases, and also without having to take notes in the library. You can just download this information, the pages that you want, and you have it available for research. So somebody doing in PhD now will his way of approach to literature search and developing the problem is very different from what you and I did when we were doing our PhDs. So this is important. But on the other hand, we are talking about group growth now, because with the arrival of the digital age, it has become now a social exercise. So with the tools that we have, we are actually able to do work on this together as a group. Okay, so this next semester, without the internet, I cannot even think about conducting the semester. Had this pandemic occurred 10 years ago, we would have completely canceled the next year and called the students after 1 year. But with the availability of the internet, with the tools which are accessible for me today, we are confident that we can still rescue the, not lose the entire time, which is the next semester for the students, and make them still equipped for a career in the future. Right. So how has educational technology changed? So, of course, in the 40s, films were made for educational purposes. So that was considered as a great progress. Okay. And in the 50s, more in the 60s in India, television started coming in. Okay. And then we saw that we were able to, with the computer also coming in, okay, so people started using these flashcards and writing small codes. So that became part of learning process. Okay, and then you have systematic instructional designs developed based on the educational tools available at that time. Okay, and it is really in the 80s that the computers came in a big way, and in the 90s we saw the computers, and of course 2000 we saw Web 2.0 with the social media and the network, and today we have a complete explosion because we have now smartphones and tablets. So even people people who do not have computers at home have smartphones, and yeah, even schools they are able to do online teaching. Many of your children may be having online classes, okay, and most of those classes these students attend on phones, on smartphones. Okay, that is how educational technology is changing. It's no more desk and bench and board and chairs and a teacher present in front of them with 40 students sitting with you. It is completely different. People are working with devices in remote places and accessing content at their leisure and responding and connecting with the provider and getting clarification for their doubts. So this is made possible because of we are now in Web 3.0 and with the technology available to us today. All right, so these are things, terminologies I would like you all to be aware of. Of course, MOOCs have come in. So people were saying with MOOCs coming in, what is the relevance of teaching? Okay, because open education is now available. You have things like Coursera, where you have the entire course available on the net. And sometimes these teachers are better than the teachers in the classroom. So, it's a challenge for the teacher to be relevant in an environment and in times when information has exploded and content is organized and available, and also in the course form, in the same way in which the universities provide, accessible directly on the computer for students. So this is an important development we cannot ignore. And this is I wanted to put in as something which you is interesting. Of course, this is probably more popular in America. So called the University of the People. There is no building, there is no structure. Okay, it is just online. Okay, and the best part is students don't have to pay fees, tuition fees. Of course, they say there will be some minor administrative costs. Okay, but otherwise the tuition fees thing, okay, or living expenses and all those things, they are all almost nil. And as you can see, you know, they are advertising that University of People is not affected by COVID-19 and continues without disruption. You know, whereas every other university is affected by the virus, and their learning and teaching process is disrupted. Okay, so yeah, so just want you to know that such universities now are available or coming up. So it's when we are thinking of university means building, university means departments, university means professors sitting in their cabins or classrooms, exams. So those things are being challenged. Those ideas are being revisited the way the world is changing. Okay, and this is another thing, University of the Web. Okay, this is not even a university. Okay, and all they say is this is built by an open community. So it's no more you need to have a PhD to contribute to the learning process. Okay, so people who are interested, who are well-wishers, who think they have something to contribute in a certain area, okay, and for knowledge of others, so they are able to do it. Okay, so what is the motto of this coming together and making information available to all? That they learning by everyone for everyone, about almost anything and completely free, you know. So again, the theme of flattening of the world. So it's no more that only privileged people can access information. Anybody from anywhere is able to access information and gain knowledge. So that part is made possible in a big way by the way in which the internet has gone. Okay, I wanted to go, sorry. Yeah, so this is challenges in the higher education. Now, this is the Peter Nogig. He actually took a class of 100,000 people. Okay, 100,000 people in one classroom. So he was able to achieve it by doing it online. So he's a very popular professor of artificial intelligence. So many of us, we are worried, you know, so, okay, my classroom is very large. I have 40 people, 50 people, I have to shout, and I don't have discipline in my among the students. It makes my teaching difficult. But look at this, 100,000 students. They are together attending a course, and they are gaining knowledge in a very advanced field like artificial intelligence. So this is also possible, you know, reaching to a large audience at the same time, which is made possible by the internet, because our classrooms have boundaries, have walls. We have limitations with our voice and accessibility. So this is again something which we cannot ignore. We have to look at how accessible individual can be to many at the same time. Okay, and looking at 21st century learning, okay, so just look at this pyramid which we have here. So what does learning involve? Okay, you might say learning involves remembering. Okay, so if somebody who belongs to the digital age, what does he use for remembering? He looks at Google, okay, he looks at YouTube, okay, and there are so many other Yahoo and accessing sites where he can quickly get information. So essentially, he does not have to remember too much, okay, he can access things. So he can use his brain functions for something else, and also for understanding, okay. So yes, so again, for this, there are so many apps and tools, okay, like TEDx and other informative sources where you can, you know, and right now we are also trying to develop understanding on a topic of how to develop skills for 21st century. So this is, again, we are using the Zoom app, okay. So all these tools are contributing to these cognitive skills, okay, and applying the knowledge, okay. Even for that, there are tools available for you, okay, and our mind does some analyzing, okay. So this also, okay, there are spreadsheets and other tools which we access to do that, okay. And evaluating, okay, so evaluating, yes, you can access sources of people who have done this exercise for you, okay, and also our creative side, how to engage that. Even for that, there are internet tools available for us. Okay, so this is another diagram which I wanted to share with you. Okay, so this is, as you can see, this is a wheel. And in the wheel, you can see that, yeah, you have analyze, okay, apply, okay, remembering, okay, create, evaluate. So these are cognitive skills which we said. And, you know, each of these have action verbs, okay. If you want to remember something, okay, so you describe, you identify, you match, you classify. So these are all what we will call action verbs. And we can think about activities associated to it, okay. And yeah, so we create a journal, we do some outlining, we do some networking, we do some highlighting, we do some word processing, okay, or noting on flashcards. So those are all with remembering, okay. But with the internet, we have so many tools right out there, okay, like Google search and Twitter and inspiration maps. And yeah, so these activities do the same thing, okay. So you can just want you to, similarly, we can do this exercise for apply and analyze, okay. So since you're going to have the presentation, I'm not going to go over it, but you can see that these cognitive skills, okay, what action verbs which we related to as activities, okay, and that is also possible now using tools or apps. Today we call them apps, okay, on the internet. So these apps are allowing you to explore that side of your mind more, okay. So it's not that you go out and you do physically, okay. So these things are now available on your mobile phone itself. That's what technology has done for us. So this is the pedagogy wheel. And also, since we are in the teaching line, most of us, so wanted you to also look at some of the titles which are coming up. So I'm coming closer to the end here. So these titles are discussing how learning has changed, okay, the flat world and education, okay. So how learning processes and teaching processes have changed today, and how we need to equip ourselves for it. Okay. And then you have flip your classroom. Okay, so rather than everybody facing the board, okay, make students look to each other, okay, and develop content so that they can work within that group. So the teacher is not the center, okay, but the student becomes the center of the learning process. And the world is open. This is another book which you should look at, looking at how education is affecting and transforming, primarily because of the availability of technology. And then student engagement techniques. This is a good book for college teachers, how to engage in a classroom, okay, and how to use technology to engage students, because students are ahead of us in using technology. We have to catch up and become adaptable with it. And collaborative learning techniques. So this is something which is coming up very much these days, because we recognize that it's not just memorizing and writing in an exam. Okay, when you make students participate with each other in understanding and examining content, so then the process of learning is more enhanced and the outcomes are also better. Then creating self-learners. This is a nice book, because part of education should be to encourage people to become lifelong learners. So that is what this book talks about. It gives strategies to increase your learning capacity and also to find new ways to develop, relate to content. And interactive open educational resources. This gives you the available resources and how to use these resources to transform your teaching process. Okay, and the last one, of course, talks about MOOCs. Okay, and MOOCs also has problems. Okay, so because there is no one to guide the student. Okay, it's only content which is available, and so the student has to have a certain maturity to be able to use it appropriately. So this is just to show you how teaching has changed. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so this is the 4 C's for 21st century learning skills. Actually, this is 4 C's or 4 skills which we should try to inculcate in a student. Okay, so the first is collaboration. Okay, so that is within the class itself, we need to encourage students to relate to each other and reach goals together, and they can bring out their talent and expertise in the process of learning together. So that way they will be also honing their skills, and the advantage is they become more useful for the job market. Okay, we want because the job market wants people who will be able to work well within a group, who will add to the group. Okay, we don't want people who are standalone. So such people find it difficult to survive. They can be good teachers, of course. And communication is important. They should be willing to share thoughts, share their raise questions, because that involves shows their critical thinking, and also they should be able to share solutions. So articulate. Okay, so this is something which has to come through, and this is one as a skill which they should have if they have to be successful in the future. And of course, creativity. We can never undermine this. And this is important because technology also changes and presents new opportunities and new challenges. So they have to be equal to it, equal to the task. And if they have the innovative sense, if they have been taught how to, use that creative gene in them to come up with new ideas, to come with new solutions, so that will always give a lasting satisfaction for them. And of course, critical thinking. So looking at a problem in a new way and learning, linking learning across subjects and disciplines. So it's no more a divided world. The world is connected, and so is knowledge. So you need to have, while the internet can give you this knowledge, it is your mind which can establish those connections. So there is still relevance for the human mind and how it assimilates information. So this linking and be able to critically think through issues. So this is a task which we need to train our students in. Okay, so who wants the learning? So this is a question we need to ask ourselves. So essentially, currently we are looking at a centralized training, okay, where the learner is brought to this training process and given the necessary training, and he is set out free. Okay, so it is more a teacher-centric training, and which we will call a push model of learning. So what is preferred is more a learner-centric learning, okay, where it is a pull model, where all these technologies, the classroom or the web or peer information or assessment, everything is specific to the learner. Okay, so keeping the learner as the core. So this learning teaching model will be more successful for the future, because we are now going away from the classroom environment. We are looking at the learner with all the resources available around him, and he accessing and assimilating this information and moving forward. So what has COVID done? It has made us shift from the left to the right, where from the push model to the pull model. So the student has to be motivated, has to be self-motivated, and they have to access and pick up things on their own. So that training is what we need to give to the students. So going from the teacher-centric to the student-centric, and these are the qualities. Okay, teacher on the stage, teacher takes notes and gives notes. Every student given the same learning experience. Every student goes through the same learning activities. Okay, so this is the past, and the future is looking more like social and collaborative learning, flipped learning, blended learning, personalized learning, and using learning analytics for this kind of a training exercise. So this is this is where the challenge is and where we need to reinvent ourselves. Okay, so what are the skills? Yeah, so looking at the teacher specifically, the teacher must help students develop life and work skills. And if you ask why these 21st century skills are required, this is actually essential for them, more for a living in the future. So the skills which they carry, they need to be able to carry useful for the rest of their life. So we are looking at such broad skills, and that is how they can also find success and purpose for themselves. Okay, so what are the 20th century learning outcomes? Of course, content is important. So we will teach them language, we will teach them maths, we will teach them science, civics, and all that. Okay, but we also want them to recognize the themes within the subject. So while these standalone subjects are there, okay, what they also have to develop these themes which are more interconnected, like environmental literacy, economics, business, entrepreneurial, civic themes, and global awareness. Okay, so which interconnect all these subjects, content which we talked about. And also in today's world, we also need people to take responsibility for their own personal health. We cannot undermine that, particularly in our COVID situation now. And also we have learning and innovation skills. So we already talked about creativity, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking, the 4 C's. So they are always relevant. Yeah, so the next learning outcome is the information media and technology skill. Okay, so a student in today's world needs to be able to access all available information. So because now it is there on at the touch of a button, so he needs to have access. So if you the greatest service we can do for students is making internet available to them. Okay, so they need to have an understanding about social media and how to use them, how to use messaging and media messaging, and how to use or develop content for media products. So these kind of skills they need to have. Okay, and also they need to be updated because technology is changing so fast. So they have to also understand that and be able to know which is the tool appropriate for a particular application. Okay, and also we cannot underline this any less that they need to also understand the dangers of technology. Many of you might be getting some spurious emails, okay, promising money and things like that. Okay, and sometimes you click those emails and you have some viruses downloaded onto your computer, or they have access to your bank account or your credit card information. And these are dangers which new dangers which technology has brought. It's no more somebody is breaking into your house and pointing a gun at you. Okay, so it looks like that was less dangerous compared to the new dangers which are appearing. Okay, so we need to be equipped to handle or overcome such dangers, or be aware of it and prevent them from happening to us. And of course, life and career skills. So when entering the workforce, they need to be flexible and be able to adapt to changes. So as it was pointed out in the beginning by the introducer, change is a constant, so to speak. Okay, so changes are going to be happening, and and students have to be flexible and be willing to adapt. So what are the things they need to develop in? They have to be willing to take the initiative and have their own self-direction, and they have to have social and cross-cultural skills because we live in a global village. And also productivity and accountability, these have to be self-inculcated. Okay, so they have to have that mindset within them. Nobody is going to be coming and teaching this anymore. And also taking leadership and responsibility. So a successful career will only be possible, okay, if you are willing to take the lead and whatever responsibilities are given, okay, to be able to fulfill them. We also have to develop standards to support this 21st century system. And what kind of standards? These standards should have an emphasis on the understanding and depth of knowledge that we want to communicate. And we need to, for building relationship between various academic subjects and themes, this connectivity, we should be able to show that, okay, somebody teaching economics or mathematics, they should be able to also show how this is applying in today's world. So that can be a model for them to have in mind, so that they can recognize future connections between themes and subjects. And also we have to think about assessment of skills I talked about, so we have summative, formative and diagnostic tools so those, how are we going to change it in this learner-centric model? What kind of systems are going to work? And we have to standardize these testing schemes too, okay, because we need to have uniformity, and so that we are able to properly evaluate our outcomes, what students are learning. And finally, curriculum and instruction. So this is where I think we need to revisit our own processes, okay, so that what we are teaching is in the context, okay, and we need to frequently review our curriculum, and also we need to take input from the market, okay, so that information is vital. So I'm coming closer to the end now. So for the learning environment, so we have to create that real world environment as much as possible. We need to create also a project-based learning, okay, so that there's an outcome for the entire process. And also we need to have cooperative learning exercises. That is what we discussed in the flipped classroom and others. So now there are softwares, even Zoom, for example, has what they call this breakout session. So you can break into small groups and discuss. So those things, tools have to be properly used to enhance these skills. And also we should have, for the teachers, professional development. We should have training systems to equip our teachers. And also we need to constantly think about how to integrate 21st century skills into the classroom. So this is again a work in progress, because the technology is constantly changing. Today, we are comfortable with a certain process, but there are other tools which will be available tomorrow, which will make things easier and better and more efficient. So that's why we need to be constantly on our toes. All right, so I've come to the last slide. So this is where I would like to bring your focus back. So we talked about all these systems, how the internet has changed, how challenges have come. Okay, so when I look at the educators today, so we can try to classify them in one of these. Okay, and it is just for us to consider ourselves. Okay, to introspect for ourselves. So who are the leaders? The leaders are people who take adapt technology quickly and enthusiastically, and they also are willing to share what they have tried with all the problems they have experienced. So they are the leaders, okay? And then there are the sharp ones. And who are these? They are the ones who adapt these technologies early, and they willingly learn from the mistakes of others. And also they are able to do a great, they are good with the students. So because they are able to adapt to these technologies and use it for the advantage of students. And then you have the wood part. If we will look at the pencil, the wood part. And what are these people? These are people, well, if you give it to them, okay, and they will expect you to train them. And yeah, somebody should maintain the system continuously. Okay, then they will be willing to use it. And of course, they will constantly need the help of the smart people to manage their programs and their teaching. And then there is the ferrules, okay, the metallic strip which is there holding the rubber and the pencil together. So these are people who are hanging on tightly to what they know, and they will keep a strong grip on their traditional teaching practices, and they feel that there is no place for technology in their classroom. Okay, and then finally we have the eraser. Okay, so these are people who endeavor to undo things, and if not all the work done by the leader. So these are the negative people, so to speak. And then you have the hangers on, okay, which is like the clip on the pen. So this hangers on are, they know all the right lingo and they attend all the seminars, but they just don't do anything. Okay, and I'm sure none of you are on that category. Okay, so this is just a classification. So this is just for you to think, because the world is changing. So what about you? Are you willing to change with it? Are you going to be enthusiastic and take the lead and be those people who will make the path for others to follow? Or will you be those who will be laid back and allow the world to go by? And if that sadly happens, then very soon we will be irrelevant. And yeah, we may find that students don't find our classes interesting, or we might even not find satisfaction in what we are doing. Okay, so with that, I thank all of you for your patient hearing, and I should stop sharing the screen. Yes, so thank you very much. So that is what I wanted to communicate to you. Of course, I will email this PPT to you, and you can, yeah, maybe some of those books will be useful for you to develop your own worldview in this very new and challenging times of how you will develop students with 21st century skills so that they can be relevant in their future, whatever challenges they face. Thank you. So if there are any questions or something, maybe it's welcome. I see a lot of comments on the chat room. Yeah, but I have not been following that.
So, sir, thank you very much, Professor Daniel, for providing insights on the skills required for 21st century workforce. You talked to us about the changing global scenario in this century and the problems we as a teaching community about the changes in the classroom teaching we can expect in the aftermath of this coronavirus infection globally. Skills the teachers have to develop at this time of inflow of technology. Thank you for inspiring us to continually learn, adapt, and to be creative. So to develop good communication, relevant curriculum, up-to-date learning methods, and continuous evaluation methods are things we have to consider in the light we have thrown. On behalf of this organizing committee, I thank you for this wonderful session, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Andrew, there are one more questions.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, Professor Daniel, for that very interesting presentation that you have shared with us today, and how technology has touched our lives. We can see with the very fact that the background that you're sharing with us right now, it's very interesting. So it's like a relief in this lockdown period where we cannot actually go out. So that truly speaks about what you have actually shared with us. So thank you, sir, for that. There are a lot of questions, a lot of people have asked. So I'll just quickly pick up one question which actually encompasses all the questions that people have asked. It's from Dr. Saima Parveen. And the question is, for science, especially for chemistry students, how practical part can be done through virtual class? And many of the students are from rural area. They don't have network too. In that case, how we can reach to the students?
Very important question and very difficult question to answer. Yes, this is a major challenge we have because our country is very diverse. We cannot only think about the people in the cities. We also have people in remote areas. But the good thing is, even in the remote areas now, electricity and things like that are available, but they don't have high-speed internet. They cannot download a big file. So yes, those problems are there. And but you talked about chemistry in specific, and particularly practicals, how to conduct practicals. See, I think when you don't have contact, and also chemistry, it involves chemicals, so safety precautions, all those things are there. So I think the best way you can make it available to students is by making a very good video, and students are very comfortable with downloading YouTube video. So you can all have, you have a YouTube account, okay? And what you should do is, if you are not confident, you want to be, if you want to be seen all over the world, you can of course share it as public, okay? But if you are not too, you don't want to make it public, you can make it private, and then you can share the link to the student, okay? So in that case, only those who have the link, they can access that file, they can download the file, okay? So the advantage of the videographing the experiment is the student can go over the experiment again and again. Okay? Even if you did it in the lab, okay, so many times we have 1 or 2 experimental setup and we have 4 or 5 students who are crowding around it and watching the experiment, and and they may not be able to see it properly. But here in today's world, you can use your mobile camera and you can record a video of the experiment, and you can upload it on your YouTube channel and make it private, okay, and access it. And you can give your own comments on it, okay, and you can make questions based on it, okay, and make students do calculations of the mole fraction and other things, and give some questions where they are able to review the learning objective and thereby gain knowledge. So that exercise has to be done, okay. But yes, physically we cannot do the experiment, but yeah, they have to only see it on YouTube. But maybe after the virus is over and when they come back to college, okay, they can have this experiment also. But if you are asking what we are doing in IIT Roorkee for the next semester, we have said that we will cancel all the lab component and shift it to the next semester. So we are hoping that in January the students can come, and we are taking all those courses involving lab component to that semester, and we are trying to shift theory courses from that semester to this semester. So that kind of, yeah, it's not the perfect world, but this thought process is going on right now.
Thank you, Professor Daniel. I gather there are a number of questions. I can see the questions reflected on the chat box. But unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end. And is true about this brilliant session. I'm sure that you have given us a lot of food for thought, and we'll continue to think about it and kind of respond, assimilate it and respond to it in times ahead. Thank you, Professor Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. But if there are any, if it is possible, you can email the questions to me, and I can maybe answer them and email it back. That is also possible. In my email you can easily get it, and we can. This is now the connected world. Even if time is over, we can still get. See, the world is becoming flat, as Professor Shailendra Singh would say. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So I think it is 11:30. It's time for our next session. So I will leave and take your leave, so to speak, digitally.
You, Professor.
And God bless, and have a good rest of the day. And the next speaker is also my friend. So thank you. Hi, Nagendra. Bye.
Hi.
Dr. Sanjay Jain to say a few words before we start the next session.
A very good morning to you all. बहुत बहुत नमस्कार आप लोगों को. उम्मीद है आप सभी लोग अच्छे होंगे और इस एक साप्ताहिक FDPA का आप आनंद ले रहे होंगे. और अभी हम लोग सेकंड सेशन स्टार्ट करने जा रहे हैं. इससे पहले मैं कुछ I just want to make some announcements. Today at 3 p.m. you will get your last quiz. That is the quiz number 3. So it is the last quiz you will get. Participants
हिंदी सेल वाली फाइल की बात कर रहे हैं सर. उसमें 2 की बात हुई थी ना, एक छोटे स्तर पे एक बड़े स्तर पे.
I think so. Today you will get the quiz number 3. That is the last quiz for you all. और उसका आपको आंसर जो है कल सुबह 27th को 10 बजे तक देना है. You have to answer the quiz number 3 till 27th of the June at 10 AM. उसके बाद कल हम आप लोगों को कल का जो वैलिडिटी सेक्शन होगा उसके बाद हम आपको 2 गूगल फॉर्म्स भेजेंगे. We will send you 2 Google form links. The number 1, it is an overall feedback form related to FDP. Number 1 form is Google form which is for overall feedback, जो आपको कल 3 बजे मिलेगा और आप उसको 28 जून को सुबह 10 बजे तक सबमिट कर सकते हैं. I am repeating it. We will send you 2 Google forms tomorrow after the validity section at 3 p.m. The number 1 is regarding the overall feedback form, which you have to submit before 10 a.m. on 28th of the June. आप लोगों के बहुत सारे लोगों की क्वेरीज आ रही थी कि सर हमारे पास असाइनमेंट और प्रोजेक्ट करने के लिए बहुत कम टाइम आपने दिया है. उसको देखते हुए हमने अपने कोऑर्डिनेटर महोदया से और हमारे प्रिंसिपल साहब से अनुरोध किया और उन दोनों ने हमें अलाउ किया है. नाउ यू आर हैविंग द टाइम अप टिल 29th. 29th को 7 बजे तक, शाम को 7 बजे तक आप अपना असाइनमेंट और प्रोजेक्ट सबमिट कर सकते हैं. तो कल हम आपको एक फॉर्म और भेजेंगे गूगल फॉर्म विच इज रिगार्डिंग द सबमिशन ऑफ असाइनमेंट एंड प्रोजेक्ट. So you have to submit your assignment and project via Google form, and the last date and time for submission is 7 p.m. I am repeating it, 7 p.m. 29th June. So now you are having a lot of time to prepare your assignment, to prepare your project. What you have to do, you have to just to convert your assignment and project either in MS Word format or in PDF format or in JPG format, and you have to submit through the Google form, and you can submit it. I am repeating it. You can submit it till 7 p.m. on 29th of the June 2020. One more thing, आज जो हमारा सेशन हो रहा है हम उसका YouTube लिंक अभी 1 बजे के बाद टेलीग्राम पर अपलोड कर देंगे। अभी जो अपना भी सेशन आज हो रहे हैं दोनों सेशंस उसका, और जो कल हमारा सेकंड सेशन हुआ था सक्सेना जी का, नीरज सक्सेना जी का, उन सभी के यूट्यूब लिंक्स का हम अभी आपको 1 बजे के बाद अपने टेलीग्राम पर शेयर कर देंगे। तो आप लोग ध्यान रखिएगा, परेशान ना हो, इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी की वजह से आप कुछ लोग सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं, तो आप उसको दोबारा से एक बार देख सकते हैं यूट्यूब लिंक पर जाकर के, मगर 1 बजे के बाद आप उसको ऑन कर सकते हैं। नाउ we are here in the second session of the day, second technical session of the day, entitled Humanities in the 21st Century, Challenges and Opportunities by Professor Nagendra Kumar ji. He is almost there with us. And I welcome Dr. Namita Srivastav ji, Associate Professor, Department of Statistics, to chair this session. I also welcome Dr. Sanjeev Sharma sir, Associate Professor, Department of Accounts and Law, to co-chair this session, and Dr. Sonal Sahai, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, to be rapporteur for this particular session. So I hand over the session to the chairperson, Dr. Namita Srivastav ji. Thank you. Namita ma'am, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay. Very good morning to everyone present for a faculty development program organized by St. John's College on development of career in higher education in India in the 21st century. Today in this 7th session of this program, we are having with us Professor Nagendra Kumar ji from IIT Roorkee, who is Professor and Head of Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. He will give his address, he will give his talk on humanities in the 21st century, challenges and opportunities. In my view, it is a very relevant and required topic to discuss on the platform where 100% of audience is from teaching fraternity. Humanities makes irreplaceable contribution to our lives. Indeed, humanities are necessary for survival of humankind. Humanities as a field has grown from being limited to classical subjects like English, history, and philosophy to a domain that has encompassing comparatively new branches of study like fashion and tourism. It comprises a range of subjects including English language and literature, philosophy, modern languages, anthropology, travel and tourism, interior design, art, archaeology, geography, linguistics, film, fashion, dance, music, media and communication, cultural studies, and history. Even though a larger section of population pays little attention to the field because it appears to lack in scope, especially if viewed from the point of view of securing a lucrative career. These subjects have made their presence felt and have impressed and impacted society at a profound as well as aesthetic level. To have clear-cut career path, students opt for technical courses, but those that do risk engaging with themselves have not only proven that they love what they do, but also managed to create viable careers that have taken place and brought them to closely to bridging social, political, economical, and cultural gaps. Perhaps this is what humanities teaches us. A valid argument for humanities is that their study is the key to achieving creative, aesthetic, intellectual, and spiritual enrichment. The humanities made us more sensitive, insightful, productive, and happy. They make us more behaved and well-rounded people. The field of humanities are fertile ground for developing critical thinking skills and become better decision maker. To sum up, humanities are essential for our communication, relationship, well-being, happiness, and quality of life, whereas enhancement of technology and quality of life, whereas enhancement of technology like robotics, artificial intelligence will make their beneficiaries more robotic, less human. In present time, humanity is in crisis due to current challenges of globalization, economic shift, and extensive budget cuts. But fate of humanity is irreparable from the future of human being. We have with us Professor Nagendra Kumarji, who will give us a detailed insight of this topic, challenges and opportunities in the humanities in 21st century. Before inviting him, I would like to request Dr. Sanjeev Sharma, Associate Professor, Commerce Department, to present or to give a formal introduction of Professor Kumar. Dr. Sanjeev Sharma ji. Dr. Sanjeev Sharma ji, please introduce Professor Kumar.
I can't find Dr. Sanjeev Sharma.
So shall I do it? Is he around, sir?
No, I can't.
Okay. So Professor Nagendra Kumar, he is from IIT BHU. IIT Roorkee, and he specializes in English language, literature, communication studies. He earned his PhD in 1998 on the fiction of Bharati Mukherjee, which is one of the earliest full-length critical studies available on Bharati Mukherjee. Besides publishing a widely reviewed book, he has published nearly 100 research papers in reputed national and international journals, conference proceedings, and edited volumes. He has delivered invited talks and plenary talks at dozens of FDPs around the country, besides presenting research papers in international conferences in Denmark, Austria, Oman, Canada, Singapore, Switzerland, Poland, and Czech Republic. He has successfully conducted around 10 AICTE sponsored short-term courses and workshops on various aspects of teaching pedagogy, soft skills, communication, and culture. He has been the recipient of Outstanding Teacher Award of IIT Roorkee for the year 2015. Currently, he is the head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Roorkee. So we welcome you to the 7th technical section on development in career in higher education 21st century in India. And sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Varghese, for this nice introduction. I also thank Professor Namita Srivastava for introducing the topic. It's a pleasure getting connected with all of you this morning in this all-important academic deliberation. I express my gratitude to Professor S.P. Singh, who has been a long-time friend, and all other organizers. I can see the number of participants is really very sizable, over 400, which itself tells tells about the success of this program. Well, talking about something that is closer to our heart, something that we confront almost on daily basis, is certainly something that is very dear to me. We keep on talking about the future of humanities. As humanities teachers in technical education system, we keep on debating on our role and the kind of status that we are granted. We also talk about our future. Well, talking about humanities in an era which is heavy with sciences, engineering, and technology is certainly like swimming against the tide. But swimming against the tide shows your real character. Well, anybody can swim along the tide, but then swimming against the tide certainly requires a lot of character. I have made a little change in my talk. I have also included social sciences. So I'll not be confining myself to talking about humanities alone. Rather, I'll be talking about both humanities and social sciences. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So I'll be sharing my content, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about humanities and social sciences in the 21st century, challenges and opportunities. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first of all, let's try and find out. Well, we all know that initially we didn't have any kind of formal education system. And gradually the institutionalization of education has taken place. And as a result, gradually all these different disciplines have come up. And we can see that disciplines are still multiplying and there is no stop. And there have always been debates whether a particular discipline falls in a particular category. So there has always been this kind of effort on categorizing these disciplines. So if we talk about the discipline of humanities and social sciences, certainly as an academic discipline, it precedes the teaching of modern engineering, sciences, and technology. So we can see that it dates back to centuries. Like if we talk about the Indian tradition, we might trace it to the time of Vedas. And if we talk about the Western tradition, we can trace it back to classical Greek period. At that point in time, we saw that philosophy was used as a collective term for all forms of knowledge. And the major components used to be rhetoric or the art of speaking for statesmen, logic, and grammar. Later on, we also find that there have been further demarcations. Like Aristotle mentions in his Poetics, he talks about tragedy and comedy. We can also refer to Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, in which he talks about performing arts or performance arts. We can talk about poetry. We have Kalidasa in our own tradition and Homer in Greek tradition. We can also talk about the disciplines of ethics, history, and politics, which find prominent mention in Aristotle and Chanakya. And we can make mention of grammar, Ashtadhyayi by Panini, and pre-science disciplines propagated by people like Archimedes, Hippocrates, Aristotle, Aryabhatta, Bhaskara, and Susru. Now, if we come to 15th century onwards, we'll find that humanities as a discipline has been propagated more or less in more organized, institutionalized form. So when we talk about Renaissance, we can certainly say that this was the golden era of HSS, Humanities and Social Sciences. At that point in time, we could see the clear demarcation in different disciplines. this is an era when we find outstanding works done in literature. And some of the immortal names in English literature can be attributed to this golden era. Shakespeare, Spencer, Marlowe, and so many others. And the world also saw new discoveries. That was precisely the period when Vasco da Gama, Columbus, they set their feet on new territories, and new territories were discovered. So geography and navigation system also found prominence in formal education system. Then there was a particular interest in classical learning, and we are aware of the dictum that all the roads but lead to Rome. So Rome became the center of learning, and there was a revived interest in history, literature, and culture of the past. And we could see that scholars from around the world, and mostly from the European countries, were going to Rome to study history and literature. And that was also the period when so many imperial powers were, vying for supremacy. And that's why there was stress on, war tactics and administration. So that is how political science also got a lot of prominence. When we come to the age of enlightenment, that is 18th century, 17th century, 18th century, we find that science starts gaining prominence. But even during the Victorian period, we find Matthew Arnold very beautifully talking about living in two worlds simultaneously, the world of morality and theology, which is dying, and the world of emerging science, which is not yet arrived. So one dead, another powerless to be born, was how he summed it up. So during the age of enlightenment, we found that science flourished in its full potential. And mostly there was focus on astronomy, navigation, and the prominent figures were Ptolemy, Newton, Galileo, and people like them. So gradually, we find that there is a shift from humanities to other science disciplines. When we talk about humanities and social sciences, as I started my talk, that we are swimming against the tide, these are certainly not promising times when it comes to humanities and social sciences, because we are living in an era dominated by science and technology. And well, all machineries have joined hands to propagate science and technology. I won't say to the utter neglect of humanities and social sciences, but certainly humanities and social sciences have been pushed enough into the background to crave for, some kind of attention. So we find that mostly they form part of traditional universities and colleges. And then rapid changes in economy and global shift towards innovation and technology have further hit them. And so there is renewed, interest and emphasis on STEM. STEM, we all know, refers to science, technology, engineering subjects, and mathematics. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And certainly, HSS has been pushed to the other side. So we find that mostly HSS is treated as something that is subsidiary or complementary or supplementary to science and technology. If we talk about the stakeholders, I mean the educationists, the educational institution administrators, the parents, the students, will find that they are certainly concerned about this neglect of HSS, and they are pushing for its emphasis, if not equal emphasis on HSS, at least importance to HSS alongside STEAM. So David Radcliffe, one of the front runners who has put forward this view, he speculates that we can think in terms of not one but two STEAMs that complement each other. And in the second category, he talks about humanities and social sciences, arts, education, etc. Likewise, we'll find that Stanford, MIT, and Purdue, the top-ranking universities in the world, have also realized that a strong HSS component is certainly needed if the world has to survive the madness of science and technology. With all due regards to science and technology, I'm not against that. Rather, I strongly believe that they have to complement each other. The world will not survive if we neglect science and technology, but certainly it will not be balanced enough to help the humanity make a balanced growth if we neglect humanities and social sciences. So Stanford University Humanities Center describes humanities as the study of how, let me make some change to my, yes. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, I was not able to read them because of this interface. Yes. So the study of how people process and document the human experience, going on to explain that since humans have been able, we have used philosophy, literature, religion, art, music, history, and language to understand and record our world. Knowledge of these records of human experience gives us the opportunity to feel a sense of connection to those who have come before us, as well as to our contemporaries. So what happens, the world will not progress in isolation. It is the kind of integrated circuit. So obviously, if we have to make sense of the evolution of the world, we cannot really neglect what has gone before us. And for that, a strong component of humanities and social sciences is certainly needed. According to Elizabeth Jones, the humanities helps us to make connections to why things are the way they are, learn to think critically, and develop a solid foundation for innovation. So what we find is all these experts vouch for a strong component of humanities and social sciences in our curriculum. Likewise, I'm reading one passage from Purdue University. There was a committee on general education, and this was part of its recommendation. It says that humanities and social sciences courses encompass the breadth of human experience and culture, both past and present, including individual behavior, social and political structures, aesthetic values, modes and dynamics of communication, philosophical and ethical thought, and cognitive processes. Such courses are an integral part of all engineering curricula, which complements technical and professional content by enabling engineering students to appreciate the world in which they live and work, and to contribute as both educated members of society and aware ethical professionals. Humanities and social sciences courses also provide a framework for rational inquiry, critical evaluation, judgment and decisions when dealing with issues that are non-quantifiable, ambiguous or controversial. Of equal importance, they offer opportunities for engineering students to develop interests and insights that guide, enrich, and expand their perceptions of the world they live in. So this is quite clear. Again, MIT, which is considered the epitome of excellence in technical education around the world, and is considered a mecca for all the engineering graduates. After 90 years of its existence, a need was felt for revamping its educational curriculum. And so in 1947, they had formed a committee by the name the Lewis Committee. And the Lewis Committee had to comment on the educational policies and procedures of MIT that need to be followed with the global changes that warrant change in their educational policies. And so what happened, they recommended that MIT should emphasize 4 general areas, not one, 4 general areas of education and research. And each area should be organized as a separate school. And these 4 areas that they talk about are engineering, science, architecture and planning, and humanities and social sciences. Needless to say that when we talk about excellence both in technology and humanities and social sciences, we always refer to MIT model. One of the names all the people take with reverence is that of Noam Chomsky, who has worked in MIT. So why I'm talking about all these things? Because they tell us about the importance of HSS, which to general public has certainly lost its its gloss of late. But we as the practitioners of HSS in colleges and universities and institutes certainly have to take a leaf out of all these discussions and certainly need to be convinced that whatever we are doing is not less important. And it's not that everything is lost. Fine. So we certainly look towards a bright future. How and why I'm coming to that, why there is a need for HSS. There was another collaborative, the Collaboratives for Humanities and Arts Teaching, or CHART, a nationwide network in America, and that is concerned with propagating humanities and social sciences. It seeks to help at-risk students by providing them with a well-rounded and comprehensive education that focuses on the humanities. It believes that exposing students to high art, quality literature, and deep history has proven benefits to the schools that include them. And why do they think so? Because they strongly believe that as professionals, we need to train ourselves not only in one particular skill, but a variety of skills to survive. Like, we have to understand the world and its inhabitants in order to create something meaningful for this world. We also have to look at broadening the intellectual foundation of our students. And this might not be possible unless and until they have a strong foundation in communication, culture, and social etiquettes. We also need to develop certain kind of creativity and critical thinking and problem solving skills, because we as humans can't survive without having these skills. Well, all of us are going through an unprecedented moment at the moment due to COVID-19. And COVID-19 certainly has given us a lot of hope of revival of humanities and social sciences. We have seen the limitations of science and technology in dealing with this pandemic. And we have realized that the strength of character, patience, and the understanding of cultural dynamics, which is going to emerge as a result of this pandemic, are going to help us survive this kind of scare or threat to the entire humanity. So we have also seen that, I teach in one of the premier institutes of technology, and we have seen that our students are too much into technology, and so they have frequent problems of stress, and they suffer disappointments, depression, and we certainly have to help them out to come out of this. And one of the suggestions that we give is, indulge yourself in extracurricular activities, do something creative, come out of the confines of technology and sciences, associate with your peers, and open up, have better communication with the world around you. So certainly these are some of the things that help us understand the role of humanities in 21st century, which is predominantly an era of science and technology. Knowledge of the past also creates good citizens and leaders, because there is always a tendency of learning from the mistakes that we have made, or the great leaders of the past, or great episodes in human history. So if you want to lead the world to any kind of positive outcome, this is also something that is required. And that's why we also need to reinforce cultural and ethical responsibility and values on all our professionals, including our engineers and technocrats. We need to tell them that whether they work in corporate or research field, they certainly have responsibility towards mankind, and all their researches, all their technical contributions will fall flat if they don't have human sensitivity, and if they don't keep an eye on the human needs. Not only this, a strong component of humanities and social sciences also provides balance of our perspective. So our perspective is not one-sided, rather it is rounded. It also strengthens our global view and broadens our intellectual foundation, which I have already talked about. Communication, we all know, is one of the very important components in any human activity. It forms the crux of all human relationships, and all human activities require a strong component of communication. So obviously, if we are trained in humanities and social sciences, we'll be able to clearly communicate, and that will certainly result in better relationship with our fellow human beings and sharing of ideas, and that way we can develop our thoughts and tools in a much better way. And it can also create engaged citizens and thinkers, it can help us understand the impact that science, technology, and medicine have on us. There have been many instances where we have seen the technology has failed. The failure of larger dams. There have been ethical issues with the rise of genetic engineering, cloning, and many such developments in the area of medicine. Whenever the world faces this kind of ethical and moral dilemma, we certainly find that science and technology does not have any answer to them. And then we look forward to humanities and social sciences to find an answer. So that's why also humanities and then cultural training and humanist component, they form crux of all humanities and social sciences education. So, you know, one of the quotes that I would like to mention here, had there been a humanist, there would have been no atomic bombing. The decision makers, scientists, engineers, statesmen could not vision its impact and aftermath. Well, 1945, 6th and 9th of August, the world had seen the blackest period in the history of mankind, when humans turned against humans and there were twin atomic bombings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. And its aftermath is still felt. So had there been a humanist making this decision, I think this kind of bombing could not have taken place. Then these are the courses that provide us necessary skills for societal understanding. And as I have already talked about, the ambiguities arising out of moral and ethical issues. While dealing with day-to-day life experiences also, our training in engineering and technology does not help. So as technocrats and engineers, we are also playing different roles as husbands, as wives, as parents, as children, as friends, as well-wishers of some people, as aware citizens of our society. So obviously, we need the training in behavioral aspects of our life. And then life is not only about science and technology, it is about many more things. We can talk about our past, we can talk about money, we can talk about mind, we can talk about society, relationships, communication. So certainly, these things help us find a perspective for teaching of humanities and social sciences. Well, we always talk about humanities and social sciences. There is a categorization within them also, in which humanities is further marginalized compared to social sciences. Because if we talk about social sciences, I can tell you, because I'm leading a department in which we have English, economics, psychology, cognitive sciences, statistics, and sociology. I can certainly tell you that economics has more prominence compared to all other disciplines. Then psychology, sociology, they also have more prominence compared to English literature. Yeah, certainly language and communication have a lot of prominence in technical education because they have utilitarian value. And the engineers and technocrats also realize the value of having effective communication skill. So we find that there are side by side two columns. Mostly when we talk about humanities, we talk about literature, language, arts, archaeology, religion, philosophy, linguistics. When we talk about social sciences, we talk about history, economics, geography, sociology, civics, psychology, political science, and such disciplines. And both of them have, lot of value for us. I have noted it down here. I'm not going into the details because we already know them. So you can certainly look at that and find it out. Now, talking about how humanities and social sciences can reinforce its presence. Well, we cannot put all the blame on science and technology for the marginalization of humanities and social sciences courses. We also have the onus on us as practitioners and teachers of humanities and social sciences. So mostly we'll find that our curriculums in our universities and colleges are old-fashioned and traditional to the utter disregard of the demands of market and professions. So what we probably need is to introduce skill-based honors degree courses. And regarding that, my submission would be a course in BA Honors in English, for example, may have a compulsory paper on basic computer skills. A course in BA Honors in Hindi can have a compulsory paper on translation skills. And in that, the role of teachers is very, very important. We need to tell the students that humanities and social sciences courses also have ample scope. So I've seen many of my friends after doing their English honors, they made a switch to either library sciences or journalism and mass communication, or they also joined more creative courses like script writing or creative writing, or they turn to law courses, and this is how they enhance their job opportunities. Perceptions of these courses will not change in a day, but they will certainly change if we make changes to our curriculum and make them more relevant. So if you ask me, I would suggest that obviously there are a lot of challenges to our humanities and social sciences, and we have to certainly grapple with a lot of neglect on the part of Now, what are the practical challenges that we confront almost on daily basis? I understand that most of you may have faced it and you may be aware, but I have, while thinking, I jotted down something so that I could, highlight them here. First of all, perception of the society about HSS courses. The perceptions are very negative. It is believed that good for nothing students only join HSS courses. All the cream join science courses and technology courses. So obviously we have to fight this perception of the society, the perception among the students, the perception of the parents and all the stakeholders. Not only this, this is also the perception of the policymakers. The policymakers also believe that HSS has so don't give it credit when they talk about their policies. So we find that focus is primarily on science-based learning because they have immediate job opportunities. We, after doing BA, MA, and PhD, still wonder what we are going to do. So there is a big question mark. And on the other hand, we find that engineering graduates, even before having their degree, they have their job through campus placement. So obviously, if we have to certainly counter them, we have to create job opportunities, and then only we can find real value for ourselves. Humanities and social sciences are always looked at as allied disciplines rather than main disciplines. And this question mark that I was talking about after doing BA or MA or PhD, we have this big question mark. So we have to look at the job prospects I just mentioned, how we can improve our job prospects by introducing vocational courses and skill-based courses, and doing away with our traditional degree and making it much more suitable for the contemporary market by introducing skill-based and professional degree courses. So rather than having traditional English literature departments, if we have vocational English or functional English or communicative English, obviously that will have much more viability from the job point of view. Another challenge that the humanities and social sciences have is that of institutional supports. Well, while we have a lot of funding, in fact, in science and technology, our colleagues have enough of funding. They apply and they get funds, and there are multiple agencies. You can certainly look to DST, DBT, ISRO, and many more, agencies for funding. And you're likely to get funds pouring from all sides if you have some good, proposals. But same is not the case with humanities and social sciences. Again, social sciences have some better prospect compared to humanities. But I'm an English professor. I can certainly tell you the woes that we go through when we look for some funding opportunities. Either we don't get it or we get meager funding, which certainly does not help us carry out any kind of ambitious research project. Within humanities, I can tell you, linguistics certainly has a better funding opportunity because it is also considered science. And then there are certain areas like cognitive linguistics or neurolinguistics where, there is an interface with science and technology, and that makes its prospects better. If we talk about social sciences, obviously for social sciences, we have some good funding agencies like ICSSR, ICHR, or ICPS. So we can certainly see the suffix sciences matters. So humanities are further, marginalized compared to social sciences. But put together, both are marginalized compared to sciences, fundamentals, natural sciences, and technology. Now, talking about opportunities, well, I'm always positive, and I see a very bright future for humanities and social sciences. We are teaching in premier technical institutes where humanities and social sciences departments are always treated on par with their technology and science counterparts. If you look at the humanities and social sciences departments of all these leading IITs, you will find that there are 30 plus or 40 plus faculty members, and they are carrying out excellent research. If I talk about my own department, we have over 120 research scholars working in different areas of humanities and social sciences. I believe that's a very good number of researchers. And we have been producing hundreds of research papers every year. And we have been able to bring funding for projects worth crores. So obviously that way I can certainly say that humanities and social sciences, if they are introduced properly, if they make the changes as per the market demands, they can certainly create a lot of opportunities for themselves. So time to realize that humanities is not just an aesthetic luxury, rather it has a lot of potential. But for that to happen, we need to integrate, not rival, sciences and technology. We need to also, imbibe something from technology and introduce it in our disciplines. It is an essential part of a well-rounded education system. So obviously the governments have to realize that what and how we teach our children impacts almost every aspect of their life. So how are we preparing our future citizens, and how are we preparing them to cope up with the challenges of their life? That is also going to be key. And fundamental changes in traditional curriculum, as I have been stressing upon, certainly is required. And we need to redefine our roles as humanities and social sciences teachers. Well, we need to tell our students that there are disciplines, like in government jobs, IAS, IPS, Indian Economic Services. These are some of the services in which humanities and social sciences students, join in good number. And in no time, the engineers work under them. So it's not that, they are always inferior. So addition of vocational papers like business, writing, photography, such unconventional upcoming design courses, innovation courses. Certainly these introductions can have a lot of opportunities and can enhance the prospects for humanities and social sciences courses. So I believe that yes, a lot of challenges are there. We have to fight with the perceptions of the people. We have to fight with the perceptions of the governments and funding institutions. We have to fight with the limited job opportunities and limited funding opportunities. But certainly with the global changes and global demands, we also realize that a strong component of humanities and social sciences is the need of the hour. And all the developed countries have already realized that all the best systems in the world have integrated science and technology with a strong component of humanities, arts, and social sciences. And certainly our education system and our policy makers, they are also keeping an eye on all these developments with the introduction of NIRF and all such global ranking systems, in which our own institutions are still lagging far behind from their counterparts, both in Asia and worldwide. I'm sure our policy makers will be analyzing critically what is wrong with our education system. And sooner than later, they will also realize that, if at all we have to figure in the top ranking institutes of the world, we need to realize that the education system has to be balanced. And for that to happen, a strong component of science, technology, arts, and humanities and social sciences is needed. I'll end up with this. Our goal must be to support our students in becoming knowledgeable, emotionally and physically healthy, civically inspired, engaged in the arts, prepared for work and economic self-sufficiency, and ready for the world beyond formal schooling. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And I would be happy to discuss any of the points that you have in your mind. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on the challenges and opportunities of humanities discipline. And you very well said that you had covered your topic starting from the historical development of humanities from the ancient age to 15th. And you said that there is a need to change in curriculum for making this humanities discipline more job oriented. So all of us should go for it, and should all the policy makers should consider this, the members of Board of Studies to consider this, that all the universities, especially the state universities, should take care of the syllabuses and make it more vocational and more job oriented. Now we have with us Dr. Sonal Sahai from Physics Department. She is a repeater of this session. I request her to take the questions from the chat box.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, sir, for a very informative lecture. I would like to ask one question, as today I have you as a wonderful resource person from humanities. Sir, this is true that skill-based and vocational courses are today's demand, be it any discipline. But what would be the best way for an institute to cultivate students with values too? As in the present scenario, the present generation doesn't want to generally focus on this. So I think humanity, people from humanity can answer this better. So this will be my question to you, sir.
Please आप unmute कर लीजिएगा.
Yeah. I was muted from your side. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sonal. This is a very, very pertinent question. Let me put it this way. All through, while talking about skill-based training in humanities and social sciences, I have never neglected the value, because a valueless society will head nowhere. So humanities and social sciences certainly have a very strong role to play. And we, as teachers of humanities and social sciences, have to strike a proper balance. And one who would like to see a balance between the traditional education system and the upcoming demands of the changing education system. So I'm not, in favor of revamping the literature courses altogether, because literature, ethics, they are the foundation of the value system. What Shakespeare, what Milton, what Aristotle, what Socrates, what Kant, what Hobson, all these people have said, there are certain things that are of eternal value. So even if the world is changing, we cannot really afford to lose sight of them. That's why, if you recollect, I have all through been talking about having an eye on the past, a strong component of history as well. Fine. Because we are moving in an integrated circuit. Fine. So the world is evolving, and evolution means continuity and change both. Okay. But then again, we need to understand one thing, that the value systems are also not inert or fixed. They are also fluid. Fine. So with the changing world, the values are also changing. Like what happens, we always face, this intergenerational conflict. Most of us are parents of children, and we find that the children have certainly a different kind of disposition, and we want them to learn something and they learn something else. So I strongly feel that, the early education starts from the parents, and a strong moral grounding or foundation starts from there. Then after comes schooling, and last come the higher education institutions. So I feel that students may have aversion to, conventional value system to some extent, because they believe they are obsolete or outdated, or they are signs of, backwardness. But still, I believe if we keep on harping them, we may be able to convince them. And rather than, giving them those values in the form of sermons, if we integrate them with our skill sets, let's see, when we are talking about well-rounded students, we teach them the value of, coexistence, peaceful coexistence. We talk about handling pressure, handling stress, the value of relationships, the value of the power of positivity, the power of honesty and integrity. So I'm sure, we can integrate it well with our skill sets, and that way, they will certainly learn them, rather than, giving them in the form of sermons. I guess this is my take. I hope I have been able to address the issue. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Ma'am, since we don't have any question in the chat box, what do you, Namita ma'am?
Dr. Sanjeev Sharma is also there.
Yes,
He can
sir.
also ask questions.
Ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So my question is, why don't people realize that studying in humanities is just as difficult as studying engineering or other science streams, but they consider as a stream for not so intelligent student? Why, sir?
Just let me tell you, this is a matter of perception. I strongly disagree with this. Okay. But I always feel, whatever you're doing, it requires some kind of competency. And we all know, our, competency in a particular field depends on our comfort level. So you see, somebody who finds comfort in doing maths certainly will find mathematics, easier compared to English. But if you ask them, how do you look at English? English will be a hell lot of a job for them, and they will find it like Arabic. which they are not able to follow. I also feel that, there is a very popular saying कि काबुल में भी गधे होते हैं. तो by that we mean कि अच्छे लोग हर जगह होते हैं, बुरे लोग भी हर जगह होते हैं. तो जहाँ कहीं भी एवरेज इंटेलिजेंस के लोग हैं, चाहे जिस भी फील्ड में हो, अगर आप एवरेज हैं तो एवरेज हैं. So whatever you are doing, whether you are in science, technology or humanities, if you are excellent in your field, nobody can beat you. I can tell you my own experience. I was throughout a gold medalist from BHU. And I had set up my mind on studying English literature only. I never thought of anything else. Though I was a topper of biology in my school, and most of my teachers expected me to join medicine. I don't know, but I could have joined that also had I tried, but I never tried. I set my heart on English literature alone, and I pursued that. While pursuing, we all know BHU has all the disciplines. They have technology, they have medicine, they have agriculture, they have sciences, they have, I mean, this is called Sarva Vidya Ki Rajdhani. They're, Kulgeet, Madhur Manohar, Ativ Sundar, yeah, Sarva Vidya Ki Rajdhani. So, my reverence to Mahamana, by his blessings, I am here. Well, I became full professor at 40 in a technical institution. This is by grace of Mahamana and God. Well, so while pursuing my BA honors in English and later MA English and PhD in English, I never realized I'm inferior to anybody. And this was because, I always kept my moral high. I always kept questioning. If I don't know electronics, how does that matter? Can an electronics person know English like me? So that philosophy is still intact, and that keeps my moral high. So even if I'm, interacting with somebody from computer science or forensic science or, astronomy or any other discipline, I strongly feel that if you are good at your own discipline, certainly you have nothing to feel ashamed of or inferior about. You see, so, and again, this is certainly not a valid argument that all the creams go to sciences and technology. I say, yes, the good minds inclined towards science and technology opt for science and technology. What about Delhi University colleges? Cutoff in Sanskrit honors is 100 percentile. Talk about English, talk about history, talk about philosophy, and look at the staggering cutoff that they have. Don't you consider somebody who has 100 percentile or 100%, a perfect 100 in CBSE boards? Do we get 110% in technology? If not, then certainly the humanities and social sciences students are not inferior to anybody. They're different because their orientation is different. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. I have two questions for you.
Professor.
One is, we have been talking a great deal in this FDP how new technologies are impacting our existing pedagogies and are enabling us to perceive the discipline in a new light. So with your experience, since you are in an FX technological institution and have been teaching humanities for a long time, now how do you think that number one, technologies are transforming the field of humanities, especially the pedagogical practice of humanities. That is number one. And number two, within the whole idea of humanities, on one hand, we hear the rise of artificial intelligence with gigantic computing. So what disciplines are likely within humanities? What are the disciplines that would be more significant and important in years ahead, so that our researchers and young faculty members can focus their research endeavors in those directions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Singh. These are very valid questions. And in fact, we have also been trying to find an answer to the second question. Let me first address the first question. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Last year, I had organized two back-to-back AICTE, sponsored FTPs in digital pedagogy and technical tools. What technology has done? We all know that technology has transformed the way we have been looking at our classroom. If we are talking about teaching humanities in 21st century, well, this has also been possible because of technology. Had there been no internet interface, had there been no WebEx and Zoom, we could not be talking about this topic. So this itself, gives us an idea how technology is helping us. It has provided us wonderful digital platforms where the discussions can be more transparent, more rigorous, less time consuming, and more at ease. So sitting in our own respective rooms, we can connect to anybody and everybody around the world and can exchange our ideas. Fine. And all the resources that we need is technology. That is one thing. We have so many digital platforms coming up. Swayam is there, MOOC is there. We have also been developing NPTEL courses. Fine. So what is happening, we as teachers, by resorting to these technological tools, can certainly make our reach wider and can reach the wider audience. Just think of, addressing 400 people in a large hall. Well, this is very difficult. We have a class size of 150 to 200, and we realize the difficulty in reaching the last bench. And many of the students complain that we don't feel like sitting in the class. And even if we are using microphone and, projectors, still the students don't find that kind of connectivity. But think of this platform. We may be sitting miles apart from each other, but still we feel as if we are talking to a person sitting next to us. So I believe this integration of technology in our pedagogical design certainly helps. And well, what we have realized, we have also realized the limitations of technology in the wake of COVID-19. When I conducted these two FTPs last year, I was all praise for technology, and I was thinking that our future classrooms will be completely digital. And certainly this will revolutionize. And then we also discussed whether we would still require the teachers. If at all we require teachers, what would be their relevance and what would be their role, and what kind of skill sets they will require other than their traditional, training in pedagogy. So, But then this COVID-19 has made us realize the limitations of technology as well. In a country like India, where internet is still an issue, even in IITs, we have not been able to reach to each of our students, and we had to resort to multiple means to, deliver our lectures to our students and conduct their presentations. Sometimes we conducted their presentations on telephones also. So I still believe, for a country like ours, technology is welcome, and certainly it is expanding its horizons. And sophisticated institutions are moving towards technology. Certainly that has a future in our pedagogical system. But I believe that the traditional system will also coexist. So this is my take on technology. The second part of the question, what kind of disciplines may be emerging? During my talk, I referred to some of the disciplines. Like I said that, even if we are offering English honors, if we can integrate it with, basic training in computer applications, if we can also integrate it with a component of communication skills. Let me tell you, we all had a PhD degree when we joined IIT. But then by that time, we had not heard of communication skill. So technical communication was something that we had to learn and develop to teach in a technical institution. And then we realized that all our research in literature and training in literature is wanting. So then I realized that the traditional, universities have to realize this, and they have to think over this also. So what I'm suggesting, we can find relevance of our traditional BA Honors English courses by introducing some papers on communicative English or functional English, and some part of introductory journalism and mass communication, and something like business writing or creative writing. Likewise, when we talk about sociology, now sociology, which mostly has its in traditional systems, mostly it has emphasis on sociological theories and social systems and Indian society. My take would be if they can integrate something like sociology of science or science technology society, something related to gender and society. Likewise, in hardcore psychology discipline, if we can also have a strong component of, organizational behavior and HR, and if we also have introduction to cognitive processes. If we talk about economics, well, economics is one discipline which has been very relevant even in its traditional form. But economics can also expand its horizons by, introducing developments in economic theories, and by introducing the economical problems, the recent economical problems in their curriculum. So I believe, yes, and we can also think of, developing something related to ethnographic research or experimental researches in humanities and social sciences. if we think of something like, courses in, cultural studies, behavioral studies, I believe these courses will certainly have a lot of currency and lot of purchase. Thank you, Professor Singh. Am I able to convince you?
Yes, sir, quite a lot. I am sure it would be very helpful for our young teachers who wish to pursue a long-term career in humanities.
Thank
Sir,
you,
sir,
Yes.
there are a few more questions in the chat box. Now there are actually questions. So if time permits, can I take few of them? If time permits us. Otherwise,
We have
We
few
could
more
take one
minutes.
or two of them.
okay. So I'll ask one question. There is one question that why policy makers, sir, why policy makers do not make policies to enhance the importance of HNSS because only machine humans should not be produced.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This question probably we have discussed a lot, but again, let me re-emphasize that we started by talking about value system. Since our value system is changing, obviously the emphasis is also changing. So obviously there is, a degeneration in our spiritual concerns and values. And there has been a growing inclination or shift towards the materialistic considerations. Fine. So we are living in an era that is guided by utilitarian concerns. And mostly we value things in terms of their material outcomes. Unfortunately, the policy makers who have to be the guardian angels and who have to think of saving their society, their people, their nation from falling into any kind of, utilitarian trap, themselves have fallen into this trap. And that's why they are investing where they are finding any kind of scope for any kind of immediate purchase. That is one reason why, the funding in HSS has decreased, and in sciences and technology, it has increased many folds. Fine. But I believe, yes, realization that investment in humanities and social sciences has to be there if we have to save the humanity is slow and gradual, but certainly this will come. I'm hopeful about that. But right now, this is the only answer I can provide. Yes, please.
Any more questions, Solan?
Sir, ma'am, there is one more question, like vocational courses like functional English cannot find a place for doctoral degree. What do you suggest?
This is also one of the concerns. But these things are interlinked actually. Unless and until you start something like BA honors in functional English, there cannot be masters in functional English, and there cannot be research in functional English. We already have researches focused on functional, different aspects of functional English. People are, doing researches in communication studies, which is also part of functional English. People are researching in the areas of business and occupational English, professional English, ELT. So it's not that we are not getting PhD degrees, but then, yeah, I mean, for that, our whole system has to change. So unless and until we introduce it as the basic degree, we cannot, think of a PhD degree in this discipline. Fine? Yes.
There's the last one. Sir, in our country, if we follow the value and norms of society, so why some intellectuals called us laggards of society?
Who are these intellectuals and who has given them liberty or right? Well, we are living in a society, which is a highly contested, conflicting society. And this is not unique, actually. If you look at the history of mankind, you'll always find that there have been conflicting elements. And in fact, I'm reminded of a very powerful statement made by William Blake, one of the front runners of Romantic poetry, who says that there cannot be progression without contraries. So these conflicting views have to be there. But then there is nothing like absolute truth. In the post-Derridian period, in an era of deconstruction, we have all realized that there cannot be any finality of perception or meaning. So there cannot be a single truth. Yesterday, we organized a webinar on post-truth scenario, and the mistake that all the speakers made was that while talking about the post-truth scenario, they all talked from the vantage point of truth, which they believe exists, an objective truth that exists. To me, that itself is a misnomer. There is nothing like objective truth. Truth is always subjective. So the so-called intellectuals, I would not mention a particular brand of intellectuals, because our country has so many brands of intellectuals. The rightists, the leftists, belonging to a particular school, belonging to a particular institution, university, and class, caste, clan, race, etc. And all these intellectuals within their right are right, and they have right to question all others. But yes, I mean, if sticking to some value system is questionable, I believe the questioner also has to question his or her value system. So, I mean, that will be my take. So, I don't think any of the intellectuals or self-imposed intellectuals have this right to question what other people should do or what other people should practice. They should not be prescriptive. They may have a different worldview that is acceptable, but then they also have to be more accommodating of these differences. That is my view. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I am thankful to this organizing committee also. So they allow me to enter for such a beautiful discussion over humanities. And we maintain a commitment to humanities and support for the arts. And I request the budget-conscious politician, administration, and bureaucrats to reconsider the importance of humanities and to be more generous with funding. I ask now Dr. Susan Varghese to propose the vote of thanks.
On behalf of organizing committee, I would like to express vote of thanks to Professor Nagendra Kumar, who has really expressed concern and also paid way how humanities and social science can enter into the field of science and technology, and which can go hand in hand. What you said is exactly, I agree, but you strongly believe that had social scientists and with the humanities, the people were there, that there would not have been any atom bombing in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But I strongly disagree on that point. Even scientists and technologists are human beings, but they also work for the upliftment of the society. But when one or two people feel so, then the same science which is used for the upliftment of society can be destructive weapon too. That again, sir, may the social science and humanities, more people get into the system, and may more people engage in that, and it should science, technology, and humanities and social science should get integrated and go hand in hand, so that we will have a better society, better nation, and better world. Thank you for wonderful interactive section. And
I'm one for integration.
yes, sir.
I never
Yes, sir.
talked in opposition.
I know.
So
I
I'm one
strongly
for
agree.
integration of all knowledge.
Exactly. That is what we want.
Obviously,
Now,
being from humanities and social sciences, sometimes we are carried away
yes, sir.
to justify our stance.
Yes, sir.
And since we have been on margins, we have to be louder.
Exactly, sir.
So that was the only reason, I kept this into watertight compartmental divisions. Other than that, I strongly feel and I strongly believe that scientists and technocrats are people like us. They are no different.
Exactly,
Fine?
exactly.
Thank
exactly.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I thank Dr. Namita.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I thank Dr. Namita Kulshrestha for being the chairperson of this section. I thank Dr. Sanjeev Sharma also for being the co-chair of this section, and Dr. Sonal Sahai, and above all, and our honorable principal, the distinguished principal of our college, Professor S.P. Singh sir, for showing the enthusiasm and giving us constant support to run this FDP program. Thank you. I thank all the participants also for being with us and be attentive and interactive. Thank you once again. We'll meet you tomorrow morning for the last technical section, as well as for the valedictory function of this FDP. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
It was
sir.
a pleasure.
Thank you.